you are looking for the types of clients that are willing to change, that are interested in changing, curious to change.
I'm going to continue to find solutions and learn with you. That's the value, is that you're not in this alone. I'm going to help you get there. Like, we're going to figure this out. This is where curiosity plays such a valuable, part in the arrangement.
The best way to develop ourselves is to develop our mindset and our skills to enable us to move further up that continuum from judgment towards curiosity.
We're all in this together, and we're finding solutions together. We feel like more of a team when there's that kind of common goal. Curiosity is a great tool to have that you can really stay engaged with your team, and your team can stay engaged with the goals of the company.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Lean Solutions Podcast, led by your hosts, Catherine McDonald from Ireland and myself, Patrick Adams. How's it going, Catherine?
I'm great, Patrick. Great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm not sure when this episode will air, but literally last week, from the point of this recording, last week, Wednesday, my daughter had her first baby, which means my first grandchild. So I couldn't be better than I am right now.
Big smile on your face. Congratulations. Yes. That's so great.
I appreciate it.
All doing well, I hope. Yeah.
All doing well. Yes. All doing well. Healthy baby boy. His name's Edmund Oak T-Boss. They're going to call him Eddie. We're excited. It was pretty amazing to hold my grandchild in my arms for the very first time. Pretty awesome. So,
bit of a high for the next while, I'd say.
Yes. Yeah. And they've actually lived since the time they were married. They've lived outside of the state. They've lived in Montana for about 2 years. And so they moved home about a year ago, and which I'm obviously thankful for. Now they're living here locally. So it's nice.
Amazing. Oh, yeah. That's lovely. You'll see the baby grow up. Lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a curious little guy. And I say that for two reasons. One, because his eyes are everywhere, just always wanting to know what's going on, right? But I say it for a second reason, because of our topic for the day. So good lead in here to our topic, the power of curiosity. We're going to be talking with our guest, Vince Lanni from Nashville. And it's funny, Vince and I met each other a while back. We'll talk a little bit about that once we bring him onto the stage here. But it's an interesting story about how we met. But I'm interested to hear from him about how he's applying continuous improvement in the restaurant industry. So, So again, without further ado, do you mind introducing Vince, and we can bring him to the stage?
I will indeed. And I'm excited to hear what Vince has to say. I used to work in the hospitality sector for a good many years. So I'm really interested to see how Vince has approached this. So let me introduce Vince. So Vince helps bars and restaurants make more money faster, guaranteed. After a successful career opening and improving some of the most prominent bars on Broadway in Nashville, he launched his consulting business to help even more people in the restaurant industry implement strategies that boost productivity and profit. Welcome to the show, Vince.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Good to see you, Patrick.
Yeah, good to see you too, Vince. It's been a little while, but I'm excited to get back on with you here. And you and I were together. For those of you that are listening in that don't know this yet, because it hasn't been made public, but Vince and I were actually on a reality TV show together. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Let your curiosity,
that is the topic of the day, curiosity, right? So.
That's right. So more to come on that. You will hear more on the reality TV show that Vince and I were on together a few months back, and it'll be coming out. We don't know, sometime this summer, maybe in the fall. So more to come on that. But Vince and I had some really great conversations while we were together around the topic of continuous improvement, because that's all I think about and talk about. So Vince probably got overwhelmed with my conversations, but in those conversations, the funny thing is for many people, they are using continuous improvement principles and techniques in the work that they do, but many times they don't even know it, or they don't call it that, or they've never, made that connection. And for Vince, Vince is, at the time when him and I met, was not familiar with the Toyota production system or lean manufacturing or process improvement being applied. But as we continued to have conversations about the work that he's doing in the restaurant industry in Nashville, I was like, Vince, everything that you're doing aligns exactly with the work that we're doing with our clients. And so obviously we hit it off and had some really, really great conversations about continuous improvement, in the restaurant industry. So I'm excited to have you on the show, Vince. It's great to see you again.
Thanks. Yeah, good to see you. I'm excited to be here. And I do think a lot of it, relates. We were talking on the show and getting to know each other, and it was really like, yeah, I mean, we were there for self-improvement anyway, right? Really, at the end of the, not to give too much away, but entrepreneurs, self-improvement stuff. And that's something that I've always been trying to do, whether personal life or business, is always trying to improve. There's always room to improve. So how can we do that?
That's right.
That's the
exactly.
question.
Yeah,
So,
to Go ahead, Catherine.
You guys competing? So obviously you didn't fall out because you're here today, Vince. Were you competing, or were you on the same team? Or not to give away too much, but I'm really interested.
We were competing. But it's a very supportive competition. It's not like I can't think of a show to compare it to, but nothing crazy. We're not backstabbing each other or anything like that.
Yeah, no backstabbing. It was more all the individuals that were there were competing for top 3 or whatever, top 5, top 10, whatever. But it was a self-development show as well. So your entrepreneurs, business owners are going onto the show and they're learning how they can take these different techniques and apply them to their business to be able to improve their business. So, again, Vince and I were kind of competing against each other, but at the same time also helping each other and lifting each other up and supporting each other through the entire process, along with many other amazing entrepreneurs that we met while we were there. So, yeah.
Sounds amazing. Definitely keep us updated. I really want to see this now. So, Vince, that our topic today is curiosity. And it is a great topic. It's not something we've brought up too many times, I think, even though it pops into our conversations every now and then. It hasn't been our main focus. And I think it's great that it is today, because it's just so important. As we were talking earlier, I mentioned that I really think it's just a cornerstone of a good way to improve, an effective way to continuously improve. And without it, I'm not sure we can. So maybe you can give us your thoughts, Vince, on the power of curiosity and where it all fits into what you do in your work with bars and the hospitality sector.
Yeah, for me, it's really, I think of when I'm curious about something, right? Like I'm engaged in it. I want to know the answer. I'm determined to find the answer. I'm motivated to find the answer, and I feel like I'm contributing to something if I'm curious and we're learning something together as a team, or we're trying to solve a problem, or find a solution for something. I think curiosity is a great tool to have that you can really stay engaged with your team, and your team can stay engaged with the goals of the company.
Vince, when you go into work with a restaurant in the Nashville area, how does curiosity come into play when you're talking? I just think personally, I think about some of the companies that we go into where, I'll just give you the other side of it, where I have leaders who think they know it all, and they don't have any form of curiosity whatsoever. They just they think that they have the right path. They know what they want. They're heading down that path. And I think there can be some benefits to that, right? To have a strong leader that knows where they're going. But there's also, I think, a downside to that, because without some level of curiosity, are you 100% right all the time? I mean, how many leaders can say that, right? So there has to be some level of curiosity where it's like, okay, we have certain problems that I don't know how to solve, and I need to be curious about how to get to the solution. How, what's the right approach to this, and how, and what about my team members and their level of curiosity and being able to drive innovation from within whatever the things are that are within their control. So I guess, yeah. So back to the question, how does curiosity play a role when you go into a new restaurant or a bar or somewhere that needs help with improvement? How do you engage the leaders or the team members in some level of curiosity?
Well, a couple things with that. They have to be already kind of like, I'm not going to convince a leader that's set in their ways to change, right? Some people aren't for me yet, or I'm not for them yet. They're not there in that they want to improve, or that they see that the way they're doing it could be better. Like, some people do think that they're right 100% of the time. Some people still are like that. Um, I'm looking for and finding, being attracted to, whatever you want to call it, people that are looking for that self improvement already, and just don't know exactly what to do next, or don't know exactly where to find it. This is where I can come in and help bridge the gap on all the trial and error. And is the strategy that they're going with going to work? Might not, might need a tweak. Who knows? And for me as a consultant for restaurants, I love this topic. I think this is a great overview kind of what I do, because I'm not just going to share what I know. I am curious about their business. I'm curious about their problems. I'm curious about solving them. I am genuinely interested in solving the problems and helping them find solutions. That, I think, that part kind of separates me from other restaurant consultants who will just kind of give them a course, give them homework to do, and like share what they know. What I say is, I don't know it all. I'm going to continue to find solutions and learn with you. But that's the value, is that you're not in this alone. I'm going to help you get there. Like, we're going to figure this out. This is where curiosity plays such a valuable, part in the arrangement.
I love that. Two things that I heard there that I think are important to repeat. One is you are looking for the types of clients that are willing to change, that are interested in changing, curious to change, where those restaurant owners that are set in their ways and don't think they need to improve or don't think they have problems, that's probably not the right client for you, right? I mean, I think, Catherine, I think that's the same for us too. I mean, unfortunately, there's been times where I've landed at companies where that happens and I didn't realize it until it was too late. But to your point, Vince, I would rather not work with companies where that's the feeling of leadership. They're just not ready for change.
Now, do they have like a lot to benefit from being ready to that and open to that? Yeah, sure. But if they're not there yet, I mean, you really can't like beat them down with all the information on why that's a better way to do it. They kind of have to get there themselves. Like, people don't change until it's kind of staying the same is a little more damaging than the change is.
Yeah, it is a good point, and I see it, and I suppose I would be the same. It's very hard to work with somebody who's on a totally different mindset to you. Often what I've seen when it comes to curiosity, there are a few people who talk about this, that curiosity occurs sort of on a continuum, where on the far left, you've got judgment, on the far right, you've got curiosity. And I've heard people speak about the fact that we're human and we all have a little bit of judgment in us, but we will, I guess, the best way to develop ourselves is to develop our mindset and our skills to enable us to move further up that continuum from judgment towards curiosity. And sometimes when we go into an organization, what I've found, and I don't know if you found this, Vince, is that there's an awful lot of blame going on. There's a real lack of curiosity. There's just quick judgments going on, and that's leading to obviously a lot of conflict and team issues. And oftentimes those are the organizations that need a consultant most. They need an external person to come in to help them see and understand what's happening, and to help them understand their own mindset and maybe skill gaps and work on them with them. But as you say, they have to be open to all of that and open to understanding that they need to develop. So I totally get what you're saying there. I don't know, have you ever been in that situation where you go in to help an organization and you see this kind of practices going on and you can step in and help them with that?
Well, one thing you touched on is like the blame game kind of thing. And I think that that's super important, because when we're trying to solve problems together, that kind of brings us all together, like in a community. So like this is where that curiosity really plays a value in the culture of not playing the blame game. And like we're all in this together and we're finding solutions together. We feel like more of a team when there's that kind of common goal. But to answer your question, I typically don't get that far. So if the owner is interested in, they're going to make the decision, right, to hire me or not. If the owner is interested in the self-improvement stuff, and maybe he's got a couple leaders on the team that are stuck in their ways, they don't think they need to improve, like whatever. I haven't gotten that yet, but I don't think that that's outside of the realm of possibility by any means. I could totally see that happening. Typically, I'll get that from the owner right off the bat. And like it'll kind of end the moving forward and working together kind of thing before I even get to the team, because the owner's just set in their ways and they don't see, the value. And they're like, I make a ton of money. Like, I'm good. I'm like, you are. Yeah, you make millions of dollars with this bar or restaurant, right? You could make an extra $500,000 a year probably if you did. Is that of interest to you? Like, some people don't really see the value in a lot of this, and some people do, and they're open to this kind of self-improvement curiosity type thing.
So let's back up a little bit based on what you just said, because I'm sure there are people that would be interested to hear your approach when you go into a new restaurant or bar. I'm sure it's different depending on the size or again, whether it's a bar or restaurant. But when I think about the kind of work that you do, I think about the TV show. Is it called Bar Rescue?
Yeah.
Yep. Is that kind of similar? I mean, that's probably elevated for TV, but I guess I'm asking you, what is your approach? Like, what does it look like when you have a restaurant owner that says, Vince, we'd love to have you come in and work with us. Where do you start? What do you do?
Well, first off, that show, I always hated that comparison. And because the guy's such an asshole on the show,
He is.
And I'm just like, oh, I'm not like that. I'm a nice guy. Like, I'm here to help. I'm also not going to invest like a ton of money into the renovations like they do on the show, because they got all the money and the sponsors. But then I kind of retrained my mind on that self-improvement and thought, well, that's at least that's something people know about and can relate to kind of what I do. So let's go from there. So to answer your question, I do that a bit, but my first step is to find not only the money that it costs to hire me, but a lot more than that. So we're going to look through their order guides. We're going to do an inventory audit, look through, their vendor pricing, and find the best pricing for them. A client I worked with recently, they're on track to save over $100,000 in 2025 based on this. Like, we just went through, looked at everything, took a couple months to negotiate some pricing. I have a network of resources and vendors here in Nashville that I have connections with. So kind of setting them up with different options for POS systems or linen services, stuff like that. And the food is the big one. Food prices are always fluctuating. When you're trying to shop around for prices, you don't get the best prices. So we have some strategies that make sure that we're finding you the best prices available for your restaurant, and the savings are like incredible. And then they think, wow, I've just been ordering this from this company for so long. I'm like, yeah, now what are you going to do with that 100,000? This is where step 2 comes in now. Step 2 is, what do we do with it? Do you want to do like marketing spend? You need to hire another manager, focus on leadership development, get some more support in there on your leadership team so you can do more work on the business and not be so into the day-to-day as an owner. Or maybe there's some incentive programs that you've wanted to do for your leadership team that just haven't been in the budget. Well, you don't even have to dig it out of the current budget. We're going to find you that money. So that's like the big step 1. And then steps 2 and 3 are just kind of trying to find ways to improve staff retention and guest retention. So staff training, morale, leadership development, all kinds of self-improvement practices. And we're going to talk more on curiosity and all that stuff coming up on how it applies. And then, some other, guest retention practices that I've done through my time to help other restaurants.
Okay. So that all makes a ton of sense. And I'm sure, I have to imagine that maybe it's not the case, but restaurants and bars probably have a high turnover rate when it comes to their employees, I would guess. So some of the work that you're talking about that you do maybe would help increase some of that retention and help keep people around longer, which obviously is a huge expense for owners, to have to retrain and we'll go find and then retrain people. What about systems? Like, do you do a lot of work on the back end system side of things, like the processes that they follow in order to, order the supplies that they need, or to, the process of, inputting orders into the system or whatever it might be? You do some work on that?
Yeah, a little bit. We can do, some people don't have a great inventory tracking system. We can help there. Sales forecasting and budgeting for orders weekly.
Okay.
So you're ordering based on what your expected sales are instead of just bringing it up to par.
Okay.
Only order what you need. Like let's keep it lean.
Yeah.
So we have some tools and we'll help them with that as well. And then also just as far as systems in the non like tech way or something might be the workflow of the servers and the bartenders and the barbacks and like making that a more efficient process.
Gotcha.
Which
okay, good.
Really varies from different place, but yeah.
Right. I figured that. So thank you for that. I wanted to take a couple steps back just because there's a lot of people that are listening right now who probably, maybe have never watched any process improvement or continuous improvement tools being applied to restaurants or to bars. So it's just kind of nice to know your high level approach.
Yeah. And it seems to me that really the key is to ask questions. It's really as simple as that. We're talking about going into organizations and understanding what's happening. And the only way to understand is, well, two things. Go to, as we call it, the Gemba in Lean. Vince, that's what the word that I suppose Lean practitioners would use. Go to Gemba, see what's happening. But that's essentially what you're talking about. Go in, see what's happening, observe the work, and ask questions. It really does come down to doing that really, really well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, some of the best ideas come from the frontline people too. Mm-hmm. So keeping them curious and letting them know that like you're open to their suggestions.
Absolutely. I loved the other thing I said earlier. I said I had 2 points, and I don't want to miss that second point, because the other thing that you said earlier was you said that not only are you looking for ways to help generate curiosity within the companies that you're working with, but you said you approach them with curiosity and that you don't have to have all the answers. And I think, again, that's probably the most important thing that helped me be more confident, when I'm going into all these different companies that are maybe in different industries, maybe different parts of the world. They don't even speak English potentially, but I can be confident knowing I don't have to know everything about their process. I don't have to know everything about what they do. I just have to be curious, and to Catherine, to your point, ask the right questions, because they're the experts. They know their process. They know the work that they're doing. Now, yes, there could be some inefficient processes. There could be some wasteful activities that are happening, but asking the right questions will help bring some of that to the surface. Would you agree, Vince?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, the key to confidence really is not that you know it all, but that you can solve, like you'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. That's really confidence at the end of the day, is knowing that, and because I'm not arrogant, I'm not going to sit there and say like I know everything and that I can solve any problem. Like that's crazy. No one knows everything, but I'm confident that whatever the problem is, I'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. I've probably seen something similar, or I've seen enough that I know that I'm building that confidence by this happened. I didn't know how to handle it, but I solved it. The next thing happens. You don't know how to handle it, but you solve it. And this is just growth and self-improvement. And as you continue to do that through your life and career, you develop that confidence that no matter what happens, I'll figure it out.
Mm. And that leads me into my next question, specifically around problem solving and continuous improvement. So for you personally, do you have any stories or, maybe your approach to how or why curiosity is so critical when being applied to problem solving or to continuous improvement? Any specific stories, or just, how you use that curiosity piece to really create some good problem solving solutions?
Yeah, it's really I like puzzles, and it's really like a game or a puzzle when there's something going on. And I had an employee that I worked with who every bar that I would go into, I'm the problem solver. And I don't know, it's probably just because of this, take on curiosity and confidence and problem solving. But I came into this place and he was the guy. He was the problem solver. And like things would break. I don't know how to fix this, but like the POS systems are shut down at midnight and we got 100,000 people in there. And we're kind of competing against each other in a fun way to try and solve the problem first. And I mean, that made us a little more efficient in doing it. The staff would get a kick out of it because they'd be like, "Oh, who's going to win, Vince or Curtis? Like, who's going to win this time?" kind of thing. And then that also, this is the other important thing too. When you make it like a game or like a puzzle, and you don't treat it so seriously, you're not so frantic about it. The staff feels that they're way more confident. They're way more comfortable. They know that it's going to get taken care of. They're not going to freak out. The guests are still going to have a good experience because the team's not freaking out because you're not freaking out. And that's what I think really plays a big role in it.
And what about Vince? So you go in, you're a great problem solver. You're an external person coming in to help this organization. They're delighted to have your help. You have excellent problem solving skills. But how do you help them to become better problem solvers so they don't become reliant on you?
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Teaching them how to do it. So asking questions. Like if they have a solution or a potential solution, say, okay, does this solution solve the problem the way you want it to? And then make them answer that. Like, does it? Like, is this going to have the result that you're looking for? Or are you just throwing stuff at the wall? And like, it's okay if you are, but let's kind of dive in and figure it out. And if they really do think that it's going to work, then they can try it. And if it doesn't work, or if it does work, or, maybe there's a hiccup along the way, like we're going to go through more of the why on why that happened and how they think that could be more efficient in the future. Yeah, really getting them to think ahead on like, okay, does this actually solve the problem? Or is this just something that I feel like I need to do now,
Yeah, that's really good because obviously we know that critical thinking skills are on a decline in a lot of organizations. There are a lot of reasons why that could be, but we know that engaging frontline staff and workers in this kind of problem solving and innovation and giving them ownership of issues and involving them every step of the way, we know that works. So it's great to hear that's your approach. And I suppose I had another question because having worked in bars and restaurants, I know how busy they can be. And I think this applies not just to bars and restaurants, but to lots of other service sector organizations where the frontline staff are so busy, they don't really have a lot of time to stop and think. They're all go, 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 do. And we know that as consultants in this kind of trade where we go in to try and help organizations, that they do need to take a step back in order to think and to see how to improve and to take that ownership. So how do you do that, Vince? How do you go into these really busy places and convince management, first of all, to let you go in and spend the time with people? And then I suppose, secondly, make the most of that time because they have to get back to work.
That's a good question.
Well, it is a good question. And the main thing that I want to do is to kind of define who works for who, right? Like, in my opinion, and what I've had the most success in is that the leadership team, the managers, they work for the team. So if they're too busy running around, like, why don't they have time to think and come up with a solution? Like, why are they so busy? Like, you need to go in and help them. I think that's the first step, is to really define your role as a leader. And that's, you work for your team. They don't work for you.
It's real
important point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important point. Mostly, you'd be surprised how many leaders don't understand the power of, just being the person that's in the back, not in the forefront, but in the back, that's helping to remove those roadblocks and set their team up for success. I mean, those are the leaders that find the most success, hands down. They understand the value. Go ahead.
Think of it this way. I mean, we're in the service industry, we call it, the bar and restaurant. Like, we're in service of the guests. The frontline workers are in service of the guests, but as a leader, who are you in service of? You're in service of your team.
Right. So true. Now, I want to go back to the question, though. I want to dig a little bit deeper on this because I think not just in the hospitality industry, but in many of manufacturing and healthcare, we find ourselves so busy that sometimes we feel like we don't have time for self-development, or we don't have time to challenge existing processes, or we don't have time to improve this or that. How do you get around that, Vince? What do you do? Do you recommend that they block time for improvements? Do you pull them off their work? Do you do it outside of regular business hours? I mean, how do you do it?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Patrick. I think you kids, you'll understand this. If you don't have time to have a catch with your kid, did you not have time or did you not make time? And when you think of it like that, you're yeah, like, and that would make you feel pretty bad. As if I didn't make time for that. Like I didn't prioritize this. So take that to managing a bar or restaurant. Do you not prioritize the well-being of your team? Do you not prioritize increasing sales and your bonuses and all that stuff? Everyone's going to be like, no, I do. Well, then why aren't you? Yeah. So yes to time blocking. I love time blocking.
And it doesn't have to be complex either, right? I mean, 30 minutes before a shift or at the end of a shift can be added and taken back by people. I think what we have to ask for here is flexibility from people, from management, but also from everybody, from the entire staff team. If we want to do this, it's going to take flexibility. Would you agree?
Flexibility it's a bonus in the industry, like that you have flexibility. That's a great pro of the industry. And use that valuable tool, like use that as a resource, because you don't have to go in and kind of do the same thing all day. You have those ups and downs in business, right? Like you get the lunch pop, then you kind of die down a little bit before dinner and you get busy at dinner. It kind of depends on the restaurant you're in, but typically there is these ups and downs and busy times in the restaurant where you might have some time to sneak away or some time to huddle up the team and be like, cool, we got our asses kicked there. Like, what do you think we could have done? And I've done this as a new manager or a consultant coming in, like, what could I have done in that scenario that would help you get through that shift easier? And finding that little time, making time for that stuff is so important. So I use some tools, I guess you could call them templates, that are to keep topics, on top of mind, of like, how am I going to help my team today? And how am I going to increase sales? And keeping those two questions like always at the forefront. Ask myself before the shift, write it down, check in midway through the shift. Have I done that yet? If not, like, let me make that a priority moving forward through the rest of the shift, and then a recap at the end. And that sounds like it's a lot of extra stuff, but it's really not. I mean, if you think about like how long it takes you to answer two little questions, a minute, then you review it halfway through the shift, it takes another minute or two, and then you do it at the end of the shift. I mean, we're talking 5 minutes here to make such a big impact. So it's not that they don't have time. It's that they're not making the time and they're not using their time efficiently.
Right. Yeah. For us in the lean world, we use a tool called Leader Standard Work. And it really it's really a lot of what you're talking about, where, prioritizing is important because, busyness is going to come. When you show up to work in a restaurant, in a bar, or for any listeners, whatever work that you're in, you show up, you don't have to have a plan for the day if you don't want to, and you'll be busy. And by the end of the day, you'll feel like you did a lot. But then if you stop and think about, okay, what did I actually accomplish today? What are the one or two things that I got done today? A lot of times, if you don't have a plan, if you don't prioritize, you get to the end of the day and you're like, I mean, I feel like I was busy all day, but what did I actually get done? Versus I'm going to do one-on-ones with, my frontline team leaders today. I'm going to get 2 of those done. I'm going to walk we would say Gemba, but I'm going to walk the floor and I'm going to look for opportunities for improvement. I'm going to find at least one opportunity for improvement today. And I'm going to, dive into the financials maybe, and I'm going to look for one opportunity to make an improvement today. So I'm going to do those 4 things today. I'm prioritizing those. Those are part of my standard work for the day. So now at the end of the day, you're still going to be busy all day, but at the end of the day, now you can look back and go, check, 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 check. right? I was able to complete those 4 things.
Right. And it's the difference. Are you busy or are you productive? I mean, there's such a
Exactly.
difference, right?
Exactly. So
I
true.
don't. I always think that busy is a feeling. It's how you feel. You feel busy, right? But like you're not necessarily any amount of productive just because you feel busy. You have a lot to
Mhm.
do, or you're like doing a lot, but like you said, are you actually doing a lot, or is it just kind of running in circles?
I actually think that sometimes these service sectors, they are, without knowing it, so lean. Without even trying a lot of the time. Okay, sometimes they're not, and there's issues, but they have to be so lean.
That's
Sometimes
true.
they have to, they have no choice but to be lean because they're customer facing. The customer sees everything, so they
Mhm.
have to. The voice of the customer comes first. They get the voice of the customer so quickly and easily compared to sectors that are not customer facing. So I've worked in the hotel sector and I've worked in non-profits, and there's a similarity there, really. And I know you don't technically use the word lean, Vince, but I suppose, what have you seen in terms of bars and restaurants to maybe prove that point? Like, what are they doing that is actually really efficient? What can they teach other sectors, do you think?
Mm.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of like those intangible metrics in a bar and restaurant, right? So we're talking ticket time. Like you can't track some things. You look at the sales, that's like a clear metric. You look at time of day and all that stuff. That's like on paper in the computer. You have that, but how many times is your server running back to the kitchen to grab a side of ranch that they forgot with the order? How much time does that take, right? Like how much time are people waiting to be seated or waiting for a drink at the bar? These are things that you can't get by running a report, on your business. These are things that you
Mm.
need to watch, track in your head, make notes if you need to write them down through the shift, like go ahead. But these are all the little things and so much more that you have to be on top of. And these are the things that really matter. And that, to your point, you get that information like right then and there, and you can make changes and improvements. It doesn't even have to be at the end of the shift. You can do it like on the fly. You can jump in and be in service to your team and help out to improve any of those metrics that are kind of failing. Um,
Mm.
and then you can take it to, do refresh topics or a little more training or a little more follow up with some people to improve those over the next week. But it's definitely a quicker information gathering process and being able to improve it a lot faster.
Mm. I love that. I didn't really think about that until you said it, Catherine. That's so true. I mean, for many organizations, the customers, they never meet the customer, or most people don't, and the customer places an order, and you're fulfilling that order through this long value stream. But for you guys, Vince, I mean, the customer's standing right there, and they're like, I need a drink. How long does it
Yeah,
take?
you can
How
read the
many times
facial
did I forget
expressions, the
this?
body language, all of it.
Right. That's really interesting. Maybe we should bring a group down and do our own little Gemba waste activity. That'd be pretty cool. Do some
Yeah,
Kaizen work with you.
that'd
That'd
be
be
cool.
awesome. Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of things in a short amount of time. But if you could sum up, maybe some practical strategies for anyone that's listening for integrating curiosity into their daily practices, or integrating the curiosity into how they make decisions or how they improve processes. What would be a couple things that you would say, these are just a couple practical strategies that you should follow?
I mean, I think first, number one is lose the ego. You don't know it all and be open, be curious. Number two is if I'm like bringing up the idea on something like something I want to change or an idea for improvement. Of course, I think it's a great idea. It's my idea, but I want the team and practice. This is the practical part, right? Tell the team to poke holes in it for you, whether that's your other leadership team or your front of house team, whatever it is. Have them poke holes in it because that's going to give you the feedback that you need to really make it a great plan or a great improvement moving forward. And you don't have to double back and kind of fix things as you go because it didn't work the way you thought it was going to. Like there's so much value in the team and their opinions. Make them feel like their opinions matter and that they can always come to you with cool ideas or any type of improvement options. Like, your door is always open. Kind of have that, practice that culture of, we're always looking to improve. I'm not going to always have the best ideas. Y'all might have the best ideas. And if they are great, give them credit. If they're not great, you take the credit and you try to help them make them better. You know, people will come to me and say whatever it is, and I'm like, here's why I don't think it'll work. And then sometimes it just won't work. Or sometimes they'll come back to me a week later and a bartender will come back and be like, okay, you said it wouldn't work because of this, but what if we did this that solves that problem? I'm like, okay, cool. Let's try it. Right.
Yeah. So what you're saying is organizational improvement really does start with individual self-improvement and developing those, like, humility and the skills of curiosity. That's kind of what I'm getting from you, Vince.
Yeah, absolutely. And from top to bottom of the organization, that it's okay to question what you've been doing forever there. And it's okay to question new ideas, no matter who they come from, whether they come from the owner or, like, it's okay to question them.
Vince, one last question from me, and then I don't know if Catherine has one more, but just if you were to think about all the different bars, restaurants, owners that you've worked with, you don't have to say names here, but who would be, or what would the organization be that maybe you would say was the best, the best customer, or the best improvement activities that happened with them would be like your highlight, maybe just a little story about them. And then the opposite side of that, your biggest challenge, and what did that look like?
Yeah. The biggest challenge first is, I can't do it all. I'm just kind of I'm helping them. But at the end of the day, they have to execute. And sometimes I put a lot of faith into that they can execute what we've talked about doing, and they don't always do that. And that's kind of the risk you take as a consultant on, like, who are they? They're going to blame me now because it didn't work, but, like, they didn't actually do it, right? Kind of thing. So I have worked with a client like that before. And then, a success story is a place called Greenery Co. that I work with, and they are really open to it. I mean, they knew what they needed. They knew their weaknesses, I guess, and they were very clear and very open about that. They very much wanted to improve, and they're so willing to try new things. And that's really, like, their curiosity and their willingness to improve is why they've saved over $100,000 for this year, and they're on track to increase sales by 10 to 15% for 2025.
That's amazing. Yeah. The story, the challenge too, as far as that one goes, I mean, that's a tough one. And I think even for many who are listening in, being a coach internally, I think they can resonate, even if they're not a consultant or, running their own business, just even as an internal coach, a lot of these concepts that we're talking about, they definitely matter for sure. So, Catherine, last question for you.
Yeah, I had something in my mind there about curiosity. So I think it's a skill we lose over time. We start out really, really curious. Patrick, you said about your, new little grandchild and how curious children are. And as we grow up and get older, we definitely lose those skills. And I'm just wondering, Vince, because obviously you see the value in curiosity. It's you role model it with every organization you go into, and it's something you try to develop in your team. How do you think, Vince, we can, I suppose, promote the power of curiosity in people? How can we get the people we work with to work on that skill and to be more curious? What do you think?
I think it's more of like the human vulnerability of, it's okay to not know it all. And especially from an owner standpoint, or a leader that is looked to for answers and feels like they should know it all, and they need to have this kind of tough exterior. Like, it doesn't need to be like that. I think leadership years ago was always about strength, And a lot of that still carries over. And like you said, as we get older, like that's definitely, something we'd pride ourselves on. But leadership really is, it's kind of changed with the tech era to turn into brains a little bit more. And then now I feel like as we're talking about self-improvement and curiosity, heart is the big thing in leadership. So I think being willing to open yourself up to the new experiences and to being vulnerable and admitting that you don't know it all, but having that same strength and confidence and brain power to know that you can figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess leaders role modeling that every day, it rubs off.
Yeah. And if they're okay to ask questions, then their team's going to feel comfortable to ask questions too. And that's what we want. If they don't know something, we want to make sure that they have this information so they can do a better job. And also they might have a question that like prompts a really innovative change that helps the company too.
Yeah, so true. Vince, the last thing I'm going to ask as we close here with everyone listening in, the next time that Catherine and I are in Nashville, will you bring us to your favorite pub?
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Yay.
All right, good. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to that. We definitely want to get down there and see you. And we're excited to have you on and appreciate all your insight. I know our listeners definitely will take value from this episode and just appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I hope there was some value there for everyone listening, and I appreciate your time, and it's great to see you again.